Let us begin with the conclusion. To start, the findings by researchers demonstrate that a simple, affordable, and accessible intervention, henceforth B12 and folic acid, could potentially halt, and I am quoting here, or reverse the damage to the liver, bringing new hope to those suffering from fatty liver diseases. All right, backstory, real fast. The research was conducted observationally in patients as well as being done in rodents and primates. What their observation first, or the association or correlation, was that as homocysteine levels began to rise, it began to malform or basically bind to a protein, a very important protein called Syntaxin 17. The reason it is vital is because it digests fats. It goes through a process or participates in a process called autophagy, malformed proteins and things along those lines. And when Syntaxin 17 was basically taken out by homocysteine levels, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease or fatty liver disease began to progress. Now, introduction of that B12 and folic acid, supplementing the diet, Syntaxin 17 levels began to just simply rise in a relatively short period of time. And then it began to either halt and or reverse the progression, depending on the model, of fatty liver disease. Almost sounds too good to be true, but the study is basic science, and the outcome was as follows. But with that in mind, let's get right into the research as we begin. B vitamins can potentially be used to treat advanced non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Scientists have found that elevated blood levels of an amino acid called homocysteine correlate strongly with the severity of an advanced form of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. They also found vitamin B12 and folic acid can be used to prevent and or delay disease progression, which is kind of interesting. If you look at the information there right below, 1 out of 4 individuals in the United States is basically affected by non-alcoholic fatty liver disease or fatty liver disease. And in Singapore, which generally tend to have a more favorable outlook in regard to general health, 4 out of 10. It's amazing. That's a really, really interesting statistic. But to proceed as follows. The research with colleagues in Singapore, India, China, and the US confirmed the association of homocysteine with non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. So I'm just going to call it NASH for short. Progression in preclinical models and humans. They also found that as homocysteine levels increased in the liver, the amino acid attached to various liver proteins, henceforth Syntaxin 17, changing their structure and impeding their functioning. In particular, when homocysteine attached to a protein called Syntaxin 17, it blocked the protein from performing its role of transporting and digesting fat. Parentheses, known as autophagy, an essential cellular process by which cells remove malformed proteins or damage organelles. Proceed. In fatty acid metabolism, mitochondrial turnover, and inflammation prevention. This induced the development and progression of fatty liver disease, NASH. To proceed, importantly, the researchers found that the supplementing the diet in the preclinical models with vitamin B12 and folic acid increased the levels of Syntaxin 17 in the liver and it restored its role in autophagy. It also showed NASH progression, and I'm quoting, reversed liver inflammation and fibrosis. To reiterate, it slowed NASH progression and reversed liver inflammation and fibrosis. Quote, our findings are both exciting and important because they suggest that a relatively inexpensive therapy, vitamin B12 and folic acid, could be used to prevent and or delay the progression of NASH, according to the researcher. Additionally, serum and hepatic homocysteine levels could serve as a biomarker for NASH severity, meaning they do a blood test, they see basically you have high homocysteine levels. That means the propensity or potential for having fatty liver disease may increase, or the outcome may not be as favorable because of these elevated homocysteine levels, because it's interfering with the very essential protein, Syntaxin 17, from doing its job and getting things cleaned up. Now, the diet. Now, what I want to show you real briefly is the method. All right, you can freeze that if you like. Now I'm going to show you the animal diets that are utilized. Again, in the methods itself, you'll notice it was dosages were FDA approved for human equivalent doses per se. The diet may be a little confusing to follow past the folate and B12, but you remember that UG at the bottom? You're going to call it that, simplistic micrograms. But that's the diet per each type in each animal model. Now, I also do keep in mind that caveat, I know microbiomes and things like that. Animal models don't necessarily translate equivalently to humans. So just to keep in mind and stick with basically the outcome of B12 and folic acid, and the dosaging obviously will have to be investigated even further in the future. But I digress. To proceed to the conclusion, the potential for using vitamin B12 and folate, which have high safety profiles and are designated as dietary supplements by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration as first-line therapies for the prevention and treatment of NASH, could result in tremendous cost savings and reduce the health burden from NASH in both developed and developing countries. So, you have something which is basically a dietary supplement, which is cheaper than a copay. And if research is further validating these results, you have a choice to proceed forward. The researchers, quoting, currently the only treatment for patients, this is what we started with end-stage liver disease is to receive a transplant. The findings by researchers demonstrate that a simple, I say researchers because I don't like to mispronounce names unintentionally, to proceed, not to be disrespectful, demonstrate that a simple, affordable, and accessible intervention could potentially halt or reverse the damage to the liver. Quoting once again, bringing new hope to those suffering from fatty liver disease. The team's findings underscore the value of basic scientific research. They just took Occam's razor and worked with the simple stuff and saw an easy way to alter an outcome. To proceed, through which the scientific community continues to have a major positive impact on the lives of patients. And that is truly what the medical research is basically should be geared towards. When you look at a simple, inexpensive, widely available intervention can yield such incredible results. If this was a drug or a pharmaceutical, that'd be making headlines. But it is just the humble nutrients, B12 and folic acid, which achieved this incredible outcome. Now it is up to basically further societal venues in order to pick up this not gold, I should say, because it's not expensive, this incredibly valuable information and research and basically run with it. Again, gratitude to the researchers. I am humbled that you watch, and I'll be looking forward to see you all once again next week. Again, dosaging is kind of iffy. I'll have the links to where you can just follow the DOI to the full published study itself. But it's really pretty incredible when you look at it because it's something that's right under our nose. And a lot of these ailments, you're finding out, the outcomes, or at least these ailments that have negative outcomes, can be easily mitigated with a little bit of nutritional intervention and also very, very economically basically intervened in such a manner where generally it is not a financial drain on an individual or society itself. So this is the stuff that really, really needs to be propagated and move forward, as opposed to negotiating better pharmaceutical prices. Won't just basically research better materials which the medical community can operate with in a very, very safe and yet effective and manner for all, wealthy and not so wealthy. I'll catch you all next time. See you then. Bye.